Really great to see a lot of familiar faces. Excited that you were able to join us today for our webinar. Today, my team and I, we have Pavel, Tatiana, who I'm sure all of you have engaged at some point. Myself, I'm Andrew, one of the sales folks here at RaeNotes, and really excited to share some new features that we have launched on platform. Now, just to set this context, today's webinar is not really going to be a overview of our solution end-to-end. The users on this webinar are already active users, so we won't focus on kind of the basic capabilities or legacy capabilities, rather focusing on the new features within the product that we believe are really going to improve the experience for your customers as well as for yourself as you do your mentor coaching. Just want to make sure everyone can still see my screen okay. If I get a little head nod, perfect. So yeah, just to kick it off, there's really 4 new features that we're going to share today. I think the lion's share of time will be spent on the assessment features. This is really going to be something that we believe will drive better workflow. It's going to enable your mentor coaches just to have an easier time engaging with students. Then we'll also show you our comparison view, which will allow multiple users to kind of collaborate together to assess any feedback that they've provided in a recording. We'll talk about payer selection. So in the past, we had an issue where, if you have a large coaching practice, you may have staff members that you are essentially centralizing billing for, but those users may also have their own separate coaching practice or may want to leverage the tool for their own purposes. Obviously, you don't pay for that. So now with payer selection, users do have the ability to toggle between either paying out of their own account or where appropriate, going through the master or company account. And then lastly, we'll talk about team reporting. So we'll show you a bit of how you can look at performance metrics and user metrics within a team. So just to kick it off with the assessment review workflow, I want to just give this 10,000-foot overview. The most robust update, as I mentioned, is the assessment review. So we're going to start really at the sharing stage, and I'm going to walk through each stage, and then when we do the demo, it'll kind of all come together with how this is going to look and feel. But to begin, the student begins with sharing a recording with an admin, and the admin can assign the assessment to a mentor coach. So there's this notion of when do you use the assessment feature versus the sharing feature. So the sharing feature is something you've already been utilizing today on platform, but it does have a couple of limitations, which I'll go over into in the next slide. Conversely, rather than sharing with an admin and then having the admin assign it to a mentor coach, students do have the ability to assign directly to a coach if they know who that coach is. So this is great in a situation where the student, if they do know who their reviewer is, they can just send it immediately to them for review. In a larger organization, if they don't know who that reviewer is, then they can assign it to a central admin and then allow the admin to delegate the review process to the folks that they need. This allows for load balancing and managing workflow. Once it has been assigned, notifications are kicked off. So any folks who are assigned to review or given access to review a recording will get an email notification, and then they can directly click a link within that email to access the recording and begin their review process. Additionally, all parties do see status indicators. So this was something that wasn't available in our legacy product, but now users can see at what state each reviewer is within their assessment process. Upon completing the review process, we go to the completion stage. Once a coach marks the assessment complete, then the student is alerted that the assessment is completed. And that really concludes the main kind of workflow. There is a secondary workflow here for formal ICF assessments, and this is really useful in a situation where there are multiple reviewers. So if you have two mentor coaches that are both required to review, once they've completed the review process, we give access to what we call a comparison view. So you can really look at side by side the different feedback that each coach provided. And we'll show that in the demo today. So we're going to take you through 4 different use cases. The first use case is the simplest use case, of course. We believe our assessment capabilities will improve the experience for users. One use case would be for a student, again, to assign to their mentor. Leveraging this feature is similar, again, to the sharing feature, but has the benefits of providing statuses, providing notifications to each user in the role, and then giving the coach the ability to complete the assessment. Lastly, one thing I'll touch on is the core competencies. So in prior iterations of our solution, there was a limitation on having a core competency model tied to an account level. So this was difficult if you have different competency models that you want to leverage to review certain recordings. Now, within this process, we make it easy for you to select the appropriate core competency model that you want to leverage for that specific recording. So it's now being linked to the recording level versus the account level. Any questions before I continue on this first use case? Great. Quickly, the second use case, students can assign the recording to an admin rather than a mentor coach directly. I talked about that earlier. This is beneficial for those of you who operate coaching companies and have numerous students, groups, and staff that you want to manage. The admin role is used to help manage load balancing and delegation of those assignments. The reason this is beneficial is students don't need to know the coach's email, and all assessments can flow into a centralized process for the admin. When numerous users are involved, having activity and performance reporting is something that is also useful, and I shared that earlier in the presentation, so we'll go over that as well. In the third use case, this was the formal review process where essentially 2 mentor coaches are going to be assigned to review and provide critique on a recording. So in the legacy platform, if you wanted to prevent one coach from seeing another coach's comments prior to them completing, obviously if they see the other critique, it could potentially impact how they themselves evaluate. So you want to keep things impartial. So with this new formal review module, we're able to allow users to both review independently without seeing each other's markup. And then not until both have completed the review can they go into the comparison view and actually see how the other mentor coach reviewed it. They can comment and provide notes as well there. And the last case is really similar to the formal ICF review, but it is more flexible in that if you have large groups or teams that you're trying to train, we give you the ability to share and provide required as well as optional reviewers to a recording. So this way, everybody that's a part of the recording and given a role can certainly view and see kind of the markup that other users are making while it's in progress. So again, this is really great for training and managing if you have a large group that all want to see the feedback mentor coaches are providing. So with that said, why don't I just dive right into the demo here. So I have a few different accounts I'm going to start off in. The first account is the student account. I've already uploaded an assessment here. So I'll click into this assessment and you'll see that it's already been transcribed. And as I mentioned, in the older solution, and this is still available, you can share. Now, sharing is a great way just to provide access to other users to either edit or view, but it's not really part of the formal assessment workflow. Today, instead, we're going to click the assessment button right here. And in a situation, again, where you're only having a single coach assess, or you want to assign it to an admin, you would select the first bullet. As I mentioned, you have the ability to tie the appropriate core competency model that you want to use on this record. And then you would simply type in the coach's email. And in this case, you don't need to mark optional or required because it's only one user, so it would default, but I'll just go ahead and mark it as required and I'll send it. Now, as soon as I've sent it, what will happen is an email notification will be sent to the, will be sent to the mentor coach. This is an example of what the email will look like. So they'll go ahead and click in to go straight to the assessment. And so what that looks like here, right here. So this is now the Coach One account. So if I refresh it here, let's see. Looks like it hasn't sent the assessment yet. Let me double check here. One. Pavel, can you check to see if
Andrew, just click a link in your email inbox.
Okay.
You will see.
Let me do that. So I can go right into the email itself. So here's that email example again. So I'll just click go to assessment. It loads it right up. So here we go. I guess it hadn't updated on my end, but this shows the assessment for now the mentor coach to review. So just as you would normally, you can go ahead, select, make any markup that you want. Coach one feedback. And we will submit that. We'll do one other one here just to round it out. We'll say this is an example of mindset. Obviously not reading any of these, but in the interest of time, I'll just put some comments here. So let's say the coach is now completed with their review process. They can simply hit the complete button. One thing I will mention is that while the mentor coach is in process, you'll notice this yellow dot here. This shows that it's currently in review status or in progress. But once the mentor coach hits complete, you'll notice that in the assessment, the status is now updated to be green. And what will happen here is a similar email will be sent to the student notifying them that the assessment is completed. So that is the first simple use case. In the second use case, we're going to dive in and show the comparison view. So I will go ahead and let's say click on go to the second example. So it's the same recording, but I want to have a clean slate. We'll go ahead and hit assessment. We'll do the second bullet, which is the formal ICF peer assessment. Again, we can select the competency model. This time we'll share it with coach 1. We'll make them required. We can add another coach 2, and we can also make them required as well. When it's required, they have to complete in order for the comparison view to show up. If they're an optional reviewer, then even if they don't complete, you could still go ahead and see the comparison mode. So that's the difference between those two options. So I went ahead and sent that assessment over. Again, if we go back to the email, let's go ahead and this. Here. And we can complete the review. And Tatiana, if you wouldn't mind, are you able to log into the other email just to complete that review process? Or actually, maybe I can do it myself. Let's see.
Yeah, you can do it. It'll be faster.
Need to pull it up. Going quickly off screen here to jump to the other email account. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. So this is the assessment view portal. So essentially, this would be a pop-up screen within your web browser, and it shows, just like with an export of a assessment, you'll see the core competency, what's identified, the timestamp, the comments made, and this is by each assessor. So these are active links. So you do have the ability, any party who is a reviewer, whether it's required or optional, or the student, can go into this view. They can click directly into any of these comments to jump straight to that point within the recording. And that will help them be able to evaluate essentially what the feedback's pertaining to and kind of the context in the overall recording. So additionally, we do provide a notes section here. So you are able to go ahead, add any comments you want. So if there's maybe conflicting feedback between two assessors, they can certainly discuss that, and those comments can be tracked here.
So what we did, we completed our assessment for all 3 users, and now the comparison view is available for everyone.
Yeah, so I clicked that icon here, and it populated the screen. Again, you can add any notes as appropriate. And any user can add notes here. So it acts as kind of like a running log to help support your review process. So kind of moving on, one of the other things I want to show, and this will be a lot quicker, is the switching of payees. So to do that, it's pretty easy. Once you go ahead and you want to, let's say, add a recording, I'll just drag a file in. You simply estimate the cost. And currently, right now, because this coach account is part of a larger team, and that team has centralized payments, it's going to be charged to Tatiana. So she's the one who manages the main account. But you do have the ability to change the payer by hitting the change payer button. And now it's going to default to my own account. So I have the ability to add credits, or if I already have credits on my own account, I can utilize that to do the transcription. So that is the changing payer feature. And then the last thing I'll show is the reporting. So here I'll just show on our support site how the reporting works. I think it's the easiest way to understand, but you basically are in the manage team section. You're able to then go ahead and hit the generate report button, and we will provide an output that is an Excel file. And the Excel file has a number of different data elements. So we encourage you just to check it out. We'll track things such as number of recordings uploaded by users, total duration of time spent per recording, the cost spent on transcribing that recording. So these are all metrics that you could leverage either for your own accounting purposes, as well as just understanding which mentor coaches within your staff are, handling a larger workload, who's spending how much time on review. Those types of metric points could be useful. So that, in a nutshell, covers the new features we want to talk about today. Again, really excited about these capabilities and would love to open up for questions, get your feedback, and invite you to try it out. Looks like Amy, you raised your hand.
Hi, Andrew. Hi, Tatiana. Hi, Pablo. We use a separate competency set that you've set up for us. Thank you very much. And we actually let our students use it to self-assess before they submit to their mentor coaches. In this process, can they assess themselves and then send it for assessment to us, or do they just share it as they have in the past?
So they could use the assessment feature, and that was one of the reasons why we built it. So they can send the assessment to the coach, but then they themselves can also do their own self-assessment on the file. And when the coach completes their review process, then they can see kind of the self-assessment.
Okay, but if I want to be able to see where they're misinterpreting markers or competencies, I should still continue to use the share so that I can see their comments as I look through. I don't want to go through it twice if I can avoid it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It could be done either way. But Pavel, Tatiana, I don't know if you maybe have any additional comments there.
Yeah, Amy, I guess group assessment, multi-party group assessment is what you need for this. We can take it offline and figure out the best way how to proceed, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, so the multi-party assessment here. So if you have yourself and you have maybe another coach, or you have a couple of students that want to look at this, you could set them as optional. And if they're set to optional, even if the assessment isn't completed by the required parties, any optional user can still, or any user actually, in this third bullet can view comments as it's being done.
Great, thank you.
And the benefit of the assessment, of course, again, is you'll be able to see kind of status and you'll get notifications. Great question. Any other questions? And if you prefer sending an email or a text message through our chat, happy to address any questions that way if you want to kind of take it offline.
I just have a quick question. So can more than one person, like if you have 2 mentor coaches, what if you have 3 mentor coaches? That would be the optional button that you would include them in?
If you want them to be optional, then yes, you can just keep adding additional people to this list, and you can decide whether you want it to be required for them to complete the assessment, or if you want it to be optional for them to complete the assessment, but they'll have access to view and comment.
Okay, and one more thing. So in my mentor group coaching, sometimes I share a RaeNotes transcription with the group, like 6 people, and invite them to make comments or, pick out something, more specific than just generally assess the whole thing. I'm wondering, does it have that capability, or will?
Yeah, so in a situation like that, if you're sending it to, let's say, a class or a cohort of folks, and it's not necessarily each person is doing a full assessment, but maybe making certain comments, picking out certain things that they want to talk about, I think the shared capability there is still probably the appropriate use case for something like that.
Yeah, because you can share it with as many as you want.
Yep, and you can share it with your team or the group in one line.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. So we have about 1 more minute left for today's webinar. Happy to take another question if there is one. Perfect. Well, again, really appreciate everyone's time today. Really looking forward to seeing what you think as you have a chance to kind of dig into this new capability. We really live and die by our customers' feedback. So the platform is what it is today because of all of you, right? You've provided invaluable information and insight to help us really continue to drive the platform forward. So we're really excited to be able to continue to do that. So, wish everyone a great afternoon, and we'll chat soon.